Welcome back. We're still with Dr. Chris Santos Akem, agricultural research expert with the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
Everyone notices, or some people might say, that agriculture is still being practiced using the very crude method. So I'm back on that. How can we really pursue agriculture as a business?
Yes, you are very right. I've heard somebody actually say it for Africa to come out of the current situation and actually making agriculture as a business, we need to keep the hoe and the cutlass back and focus on agriculture in a mechanized fashion. We need to look at agriculture as a value chain, all across from production to marketing to transformation and then to consumption. When we look at this, then we'll start finding opportunities for different people at different sectors of the value chain. When we just focus on production, you produce, you want to send it to somebody else to transform. Somebody made a very good analogy. We produce all the cocoa in the world, West Africa, but all our chocolates, they come from Switzerland.
Just like what happens in the oil
where you will
industry.
not find a single tree of cocoa in those countries. We cannot make it if we just stop at production and allow others to transform it. So we need to look at it as a value chain, and that's where the concept of business comes in. So that we produce, we transform, and then we sell. If we don't do that, we will continue to have a raw deal because we are producing, somebody is transforming it, making the big fortunes out of it because he decides on what value he puts and export it back to us. So we need to look at it as a business, look at the value chain, and try to look at processes that will allow us to not only produce, but to transform and then to market.
You say the African Development Bank is working on boosting strategic crops, which I'm so sure you are aware of. You're working with them. What's this all about?
We are really fortunate that the African Development Bank has traditionally focused on infrastructural development. Then recently, they got into the concept, I don't know, they were convinced to see that if agriculture is a backbone of African economies, and then they are truly an African bank, then they need to do something, they need to invest where we're looking at. So a couple of years ago, they approached the institute, or the institute approached them in their quest for funding, and discussed the need for them to support the institute, and they agreed. So we developed a proposal, basically called Support to Agricultural Research for Development of Strategic Crops in Africa, which we now call SAT-SC. It's focusing on 4 crops. These 4 crops are out of 6 that the African governments, African heads of states, got together and recognized as the key crops that need to be promoted in order to make a difference in Africa. This project is focusing on maize, on cassava, on rice, and on wheat. The other 2 that they did not look at are sorghum and the millet. So the AFDB are supporting these 4 commodities with a grant of up to $63 million over a 5-year period. And this is being implemented by 4 agricultural institutions: ICADA, responsible for wheat, Africa Rice for rice, and IITA for cassava and maize. And this has been undertaken in 20 regional membership countries. How these countries came about, we just asked them to express interest and call for interest. So some expressed interest, and there was just the additional commitment that we wanted you to indicate how much counterpart funding you can extend to the project. So even though it's $63 million from the African Development Bank, the total value of the project is about $86 million. So in other words, we're expecting $22 million from the counter countries as what we call contributions in kind, not cash. The time that they give some of the employees to be involved in the project, the office spaces that we use in their research station, some of the lands in the different countries in which we do research, we all try to accumulate them or at least convert them into their own counterparts.
So how is this project going to help African countries be key players in the global market?
It will help very much because the project has some objectives. There's what we call the focus areas. One of them is that it takes a lot of time to make that impact that you need. So why the focus on this 4 CGI, are a consultative group for international agricultural research? They want to build on what is already in place. Because if you want to promote a new cassava variety, it takes 10 years to breed one at least. So the project's for 5 years. So if we engage some other person who has to start from the scratch, it will take 10 years just to develop the variety. So they are building on these institutions who already have the crops in place. And therefore, all we need to do is to evaluate them. And that's why they call it technology development. We evaluate them across different environments. Then we disseminate the technologies that we have, be it the processing of cassava, for example. Then we build capacity. And then we'll see how we can efficiently manage the project. The outcomes that we're expecting is at least a 20% yield increase in the 4 commodities we're focusing on. If we can just increase the yields by that much, and then if we can extend them to a number of stakeholders, and then increase their incomes, double their current income levels, then that will actually make them to start moving out of the poverty levels in which a lot of Africans find themselves. So it's all about poverty alleviation and trying to engage them to improve their livelihoods.
Dr. Chrysanthus Akem, thank you very much for your time on Dateline Abuja.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your mails as always. Keep them coming using the address and Twitter handle on your screen. Let us know anything happening within your locality, especially if you're in the nation's capital. We'll be glad to hear from you. Don't forget you can watch the program on youtube.com/channelsweb/videos. Make your comments after viewing these videos. Always remember to include your name and where you're writing from. I'm Gloria Umezike. Thanks for watching and see you again.